Hi everyone, my name is Dawn and I work at the Saskatoon Public Library. I'm here today with my family on Treaty 6 land, homeland of the Métis, in our backyard. You can't see them, but you will hear them soon. Tonight we will be reading The Hall of Mirrors by Kurt Vonnegut. There was a parking lot, and then a guitar school, and then Fred's OK used car lot, and then the hypnotist house, and then a vacant lot with the foundation of a mansion still on it. And then the Beeler Brothers Funeral Home. Autumn winds experimenting with the idea of a hard winter made little twists of soot and paper, made the plastic propellers over the car lot go frrr. The city was Indianapolis, the largest city not on a navigable waterway in the world. It was to the hypnotist house that the two city detectives came. They were detectives Carney and Foltz. Carney, young and dapper, Foltz, middle-aged and rumpled. Carney went up the hypnotist steps like a tap dancer. Foltz, though he was going to do all the talking, trudged far behind. Carney's interest was specific. He was going straight for the hypnotist. Foltz's attention was diffused. He marveled at the monstrous architecture of the hypnotist 20-room house, let his mournful eyes climb to the tower of one corner of the house. There had to be a ballroom at the top of the tower. There were ballrooms at the top of all the towers that the rich had abandoned. Foltz reached the hypnotist's door at last, rang the doorbell. The only hint of quackery was a small sign over the doorbell. K. Holloman Weems. It said, Hypnotic Therapy. Weems himself came to the door. He was in his 50s, small, narrow-shouldered, neat. His nose was long, his lips full and red, and his bald head had a seemingly phosphorescent look to it. His eyes were unspectacular, pale, blue, clear, ordinary.
Dr. Weems?
Dr. Weems? There is no Dr. Weems here. There is a very plain Mr. Weems. He stands before you.
In your line of work, I'd think a man would almost have to have some kind of doctor's degree.
As it happens, I hold 2 doctor's degrees, one from Budapest, another from Edinburgh. I don't use the title doctor, however. I wouldn't want anyone to mistake me for a physician. Won't you come in?
The three went into what had been the parlor of the mansion, what was the hypnotist's office now. There was a no-nonsense about the furnishings. They were functional, gray enameled steel, a desk, a few chairs, a filing cabinet, a bookcase. There were no pictures, no framed certificates on the high walls. Weems sat down behind his desk, invited his visitors to sit.
The chairs aren't very comfortable, I'm afraid.
Where do you keep your equipment, Mr. Weems?
Oh, what equipment is that?
I assume you've got something you hypnotize people with? A light or something they stare at?
No, I'm all the apparatus there is.
You pull the blinds when you hypnotize someone?
No.
He volunteered no more information, but looked back and forth between the detectives, inviting them to state their business.
We're from the police, Mr. Weems.
And he showed his identification.
You are not telling me the news.
You were expecting the police?
I was born in Romania, sir, where one is taught from birth to expect the police.
I thought maybe you had some idea what we were here about.
Weems sat back, twiddled his thumbs.
Oh, generally. I arouse vague fears among the simpler sorts wherever I go. Sooner or later, they coax the police into having a look at me to see if I might not be performing black magic here.
You mind telling us what you do here?
What I do, sir, is as simple and straightforward as what a carpenter or any other honest workman does. My particular service has to do with the elimination of undesirable habits or unreasonable fears.
He startled young Carney by gesturing at him suddenly.
You, sir, obviously smoke too much. If you were to give me your undivided attention for 2 minutes, you would never smoke again, would never want to smoke again.
Carney put out his cigarette.
I must apologize for the chair you are sitting on, sir. It's brand new, but something's wrong with the cushion. There's a small lump on the left side. It's a very small lump, but after a while it makes people quite uncomfortable. It's surprising how a little thing like that can actually induce real pain. Curiously enough, people usually feel the pain in the neck and shoulders rather than in the lower spine.
I'm alright.
Fine.
Weems turned to Foltz again.
If a man had a fear of firearms, for instance, and his work made it necessary for him to be around them, I could eliminate that fear with hypnosis. As a matter of fact, if a policeman, say, were only a moderately good pistol shot, I could steady his hand enough by means of hypnosis to make him an expert. I'll steady your hand, if you like. If you'll take out your pistol and hold it as steadily as possible.
Foltz did not draw his pistol.
Only 2 reasons I ever take my pistol out. Either I'm gonna clean it, or I'm gonna shoot somebody with it.
In a minute, you'll change your mind.
He glanced at his expensive wristwatch.
Believe me, I could make your hand as steady as a vice.
He looked at Carney, saw that Carney was standing, was massaging the back of his neck.
Oh dear, I did warn you about that chair. I should get rid of it. Take another chair, please, and turn that one to the wall so no one else will get a stiff neck from it.
Carney took another chair, turned his first chair to the wall. He carried his head to one side. His neck was as stiff as a bent crowbar. No amount of rubbing seemed to help.
Have I convinced you? Will you tell my friends and neighbors that I'm not practicing witchcraft or medicine without a license here?
I'd be glad to do that, sir. But that isn't the main thing we came to see you about.
Oh?
No, sir.
He took a photograph from the inside pocket of his coat.
What we really wanted to ask you was, do you know this woman? And do you have any idea where we could find her? We've traced her here, and nobody seems to know where she went after.
Weems took the photograph without hesitation, identified it promptly.
Mrs. Mary Stiles Cantwell. I remember her well. Would you like to know the exact dates when she was here for treatment?
He opened a card file on his desk, searched for the card of a missing woman. Found it.
4 visits in all. July 14th, 15th, 19th, and 21st.
What did you treat her for?
Would you mind pointing that thing somewhere else?
What?
Your pistol. It's pointing straight at me.
Foltz looked down at his right hand, discovered that it really did hold a pistol aimed at Weems. He was embarrassed, confused. Still, he did not return the pistol to its holster.
Put it away, please.
Foltz put it away.
Thank you. Surely I'm not being that uncooperative.
No, sir.
It's the heat in the room. It puts everybody's nerves on edge. The heating system's very bad, always boiling hot in this room, while the rest of the house is like the North Pole. It's at least 90 degrees in here. Won't you gentlemen please take off your coats?
Carney and Foltz took off their coats.
Take off your suit coats too. It must be 100 in here.
Carney and Foltz took off their suit coats, but sweltered still.
You both have splitting headaches now. And I know how hard it must be for you to think straight. But I want you to tell me everything you know about me or suspect about me.
4 women have been reported missing, have been traced here.
Only 4?
Only 4.
Their names, please.
Miss Mary Styles Cantwell, Miss Esmeralda Coyne, Miss Nancy Royce, Miss Caroline Hughes Tinker, and Miss Janet Zimmer.
Weems wrote the names down, just the last names.
Cantwell, Coyne, Royce, Selfridge, did you say?
Selfridge? Who's Selfridge?
Oh, nobody. Selfridge is nobody.
Nobody.
Now, what do you think I did with these women?
We think you killed them. They were all fairly rich widows. They all drew their money out of the bank after they came to see you, and they all disappeared after that. We think their bodies are somewhere in this house.
Do you know my real name?
No. When we get your fingerprints, we figure we'll find out you're wanted a lot of other places.
I will save you that trouble. I will tell you my real name. My real name, gentlemen, is Rumpelstiltskin. Have you got that? I will spell it for you. Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin.
I think you should phone that information in to headquarters immediately.
He held out absolutely nothing to Foltz.
Here is the telephone.
Foltz took the nothing he'd been handed, treated it like a telephone. Using the non-existent instrument, he put a call through to Captain Finnerty. Reported gravely that Weems's real name was Rumpelstiltskin.
What did Captain Finnerty say when you gave him the news?
I don't know.
You don't know? He said I was the man who made people pass through mirrors, didn't he?
Yes, that's what he said.
I admit it. You've got me dead to rights. I am Rumpelstiltskin, and I have hypnotized people into stepping through mirrors, into stepping out of this life and into another on the other side. Can you believe that?
Yes.
It's certainly possible once you think about it, isn't it?
Yes.
You believe it too, don't you?
Weems said to Carney. Carney was a hunchback now. His neck, shoulders, and head ached, so I believe it.
So, that explains what happened to the ladies you're looking for. They're far from being dead, believe me. They came to me very unhappy about the way their lives were going, so I sent them through mirrors to see if things weren't better on the other side. In every case, they chose to remain on the other side. I'll show you in a moment the mirrors they went through, but first I'd like to know if there are any more police outside or on their way here.
No.
So just you two?
Yes.
Weems clapped his hands lightly.
Well, come along, gentlemen, and I'll show you the mirrors.
He went to the office door, held it open for his guests. He watched them closely as they passed out into the hall. Was gratified when they both began to shiver violently, as though struck by bitter cold.
I warned you, it was like the North Pole out here. You'd better bundle up, though. I'm afraid you'll still be quite uncomfortable.
Carney and Foltz bundled up, but continued to shiver.
3 flights of stairs to climb, gentlemen. We're going to the ballroom at the top of the house. That is where the mirrors are. There is an elevator, but it hasn't run in years.
Not only was the elevator inoperative, it didn't even exist anymore. The elevator, the paneling, the ornate light fixtures, and everything remotely valuable had been stripped from the mansion years before Weems took it over. But Weems invited his guests, even as their feet crunched broken plaster on bare floors, to admire the immaculate and lavish decor.
This is the gold room, and this is the blue room. The white swan bed in the blue room is said to have belonged to Madame Pompadour, believe it or not. Do you believe that?
Couldn't prove it by me.
Who can be sure of anything in this world, eh?
Who can be sure of anything in this world, eh?
Carney repeated this sentiment word for word.
Here is the staircase to the ballroom.
The staircase was broad. There was a pedestal at its base that had once supported a statue. The original banisters were gone, naked spikes showing where the uprights had once been moored. There was only one banister now, a length of pipe held by clinched nails. The bare steps were studded with carpet tacks. A tack here and there held a twist of red yarn.
I've spent more money restoring this staircase than I've spent on anything else in the house. The banisters I found in Italy. The statue, a 14th century Saint Catherine from Toledo, I bought from the estate of William Randolph Hearst. The carpet we're walking on, gentlemen, was woven to my specifications in Kerman, Iran. It's like walking on a feather mattress, isn't it?
Carney and Foltz did not reply. There was so much splendor to appreciate. But they lifted their knees high as though they were indeed walking on a feather mattress. Weems opened the ballroom door. A handsome door, actually. But its handsomeness was spoiled by a message whitewashed across its face. "Keep out," said the sign. 2 coat hangers, hung from the doorknob, tinkled tinnily as Weems opened and closed the door. The ballroom at the tower's top was circular. Around its walls, full-length mirrors alternated with ghastly leaded glass windows of purple, mustard, and green. The only furnishings were 3 bundles of newspapers, tied up as though for a paper sale, 2 pieces of track from a toy train set, and a headboard of a brass bed. Weems did not rhapsodize about the glories of the ballroom. He invited Carney and Foltz to give their full attention to the mirrors, which were real. And the play of mirror on mirror gave each mirror the aspect of a door leading to infinite perspectives of other doors.
Sort of like a railroad roundhouse, isn't it? Look at all the possible routes of travel radiating from us, beckoning to us.
He turned to Carney suddenly.
Which route attracts you most?
I don't know.
Then I'll recommend one in a moment. It isn't a decision to be taken lightly, because a person changes radically when he passes through a mirror. He, or she, as the case may be. Handedness changes, of course. That's elementary. A right-handed person becomes left-handed, and vice versa. But a person's personality changes too, and his future, or his or her future, as the case may be.
The woman we're looking for. They went through these mirrors?
Yes, the women you're looking for, and about a dozen more you're not looking for besides. They came to me with the shapeless longings of widows with money, but without confidence, hope, irresistible beauty, or dreams. They had been to physicians and quacks of every sort before they came to me. They could describe neither their ailment nor the hoped-for cure. It was up to me to define both.
So what did you tell them?
Couldn't you make a diagnosis on the basis of what I've told you? It was their futures that were sick. And for sick futures...
And he swept his hand at the seeming doors all around them.
I know only one cure.
Weems shouted now, and then listened as though expecting faint replies.
Mrs. Cantwell! Mary! Mrs. Forbes!
Who's Mrs. Forbes?
Oh, that is Mary Cantwell's new name on the other side of the glass.
Names change when people go through?
No, not necessarily. Though a lot of people decide to change their names to go with their new futures, their new personalities. In the case of Mary Cantwell, she married a man named Gordon Forbes a week after passing through. I was the best man, and in all modesty, I don't think anyone ever deserved the honor more.
You can go in and out of these mirrors anytime you want?
Certainly. Self-hypnosis. The easiest and commonest form of hypnosis.
I'd sure like a demonstration.
That's why I'm trying to call Mary or one of the others back. Hello? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
He shouted at the mirrors.
I thought maybe you'd go through a mirror for us.
It is a thing I do not care to do, really, except on very special occasions, like Mary's wedding, like the Carter family's first anniversary on the other side.
The who family?
The Carter family. George, Nancy, their children, Eunice and Robert.
He pointed over his shoulder at a mirror behind him.
I put them all through that mirror there 1.25 years ago.
I thought you just specialized in rich widows.
I thought that's what you specialized in. That's all you asked about rich widows.
So you put a family through too?
Several of them. I suppose you want the exact number. I can't give you that number off the top of my head. I'll have to check my files.
They had bad futures. Sick futures. These families you, put through?
In terms of life on this side of the glass, no, not really, but there were far better futures to be had on the other side. No danger of war, for one thing. A much lower cost of living, for another.
And when they went through, they left all their money with you, right?
They took it with them. All of it. With the exception of my fee, which is a flat $100 a head.
It's too bad they can't hear you yell. I'd sure like to talk to some of these people, hear about all the nice things that have been happening to them.
Look in any mirror and see what a long, complicated corridor my voice has to carry down.
Guess it's up to you to put on the demonstration then.
I told you.
Said Weems, very uneasy now.
I'm very reluctant to do it.
You're afraid the trick won't work?
Oh, it'll work all right. It's likely to work too well is all. If I get on the other side of the glass, I'm going to want to stay on the other side. I always do.
If it's so heavenly on the other side, what could keep you here?
Weems closed his eyes, massaged the bridge of his nose.
The same thing that makes you an excellent policeman.
He opened his eyes.
A sense of duty.
He did not smile.
And what is it this duty of yours makes you do?
He asked the question mockingly. His air of being dazed, of being under Weems's power, had dropped away. Weems, seeing the transformation, became in turn a small and wretched man.
It makes me stay here on this side.
He said emptily.
Because I am the only one I know of who can help others pass through.
He shook his head.
You aren't hypnotized, are you?
Hell no. And neither is he.
Carney relaxed, shuddered, smiled.
If it makes you feel any better.
Said Bolts, taking his handcuffs from his hip pocket.
It's a couple of brother hypnotists who are taking you in. That's how we got this assignment. Carney and I have both played with it some. Compared to you, we're mere amateurs, of course. Come on, Weems. Rumpelstiltskin. Hold out your wrists like a good boy.
This was a trap then?
Right. We wanted to get you to talk, and you certainly did. The only problem now is to find the bodies. What did you plan to do with Carney and me? Get us to shoot each other?
No.
I'll tell you this. We respected hypnotism enough not to take any chances. There's another detective right outside the door.
Weems had not yet held out his thin wrists like a good boy.
I don't believe you.
Fred! Come on in so Rumpelstiltskin can believe in you.
In came the third detective, a pale, moon-faced, huge young Swede. Carney and Foltz were elated and smug. The man named Fred didn't share their delight. He was worried and watchful. He had his gun drawn.
Please, tell him to put his gun away.
Put your gun away, Fred.
You guys are really alright?
Carney and Foltz laughed.
Fooled you too, eh?
Yeah, you sure did.
Fred didn't laugh. He looked closely at Carney and Foltz, did it impersonally, as though they were department store dummies. And Carney and Foltz, in their moment of triumph, really did look like dummies. Stiff, waxen, with mortuary smiles.
For the love of God, tell him to put his gun away.
For the love of God, put the gun away, Fred.
Fred didn't do it.
I don't think you guys know what you're doing.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Carney and Foltz burst out laughing. They laughed so hard and long that their bellies ached and their weeping eyes bugged, and they gasped for air.
That's enough.
And they stopped laughing. Instantly. Became department store dummies again,
They are hypnotized.
said Fred, backing away.
Certainly. You've got to understand what sort of a house you're in. Nothing is seen, said, felt, or done here that I don't want seen, said, felt, or done.
Come on.
Said Fred queasily, waving his gun.
Wake him up.
Straighten your tie.
I said wake him up.
Straighten your tie.
Fred straightened his tie.
Thank you. Now, I'm afraid I have rather frightening news for you, for all of you.
Consternation filled every face.
A tornado is coming. It will blow you all away unless you handcuff your left hands to that steam radiator.
The three detectives, clumsy with terror, handcuffed themselves to the radiator.
Throw your keys away, or you'll be struck by lightning.
Keys flew across the room.
The tornado missed you. You're safe now.
The three detectives wept at their miraculous deliverance.
Pull yourselves together, gentlemen. I have an announcement to make.
The three were avid for the news.
I am going to leave you. In fact, I am going to leave everything about this existence behind.
He went to a mirror, tapped it with his knuckles.
I'm going to step through this mirror in a moment. You will see me, and my reflection meet and blend, shrink to the size of a pinhead. The pinhead will grow again, not as me and my reflection, but as my reflection alone. You will then see my reflection walk away from you down the long, long corridor. See the corridor I'm going to walk down?
The three nodded.
You will see me pass through the mirror when I say the words black magic. When I say the words white magic, you will see me reappear in every mirror in the room. You will shoot at each of those images until every mirror is broken. And when I say, goodbye, gentlemen, you will shoot each other down.
Weems strolled to the attic door. Nobody watched him do it. All eyes were on the mirror he'd said he was going to pass through.
Black magic.
There he goes!
Like going through a door.
God help us.
Weems stepped out of the ballroom and onto the stairs. He left the door open a crack.
White magic.
There he is!
All around us.
Get him!
There was a pandemonium of shots and yells and shattering glass. Weems waited for the silence that would tell him that all the mirrors had been broken. That it was time at last to say goodbye. The farewell was poised on his lips when bullets ripped through him and the door against which he leaned. Weems sank dying to the staircase. about to roll all the way down. He was not thinking of the lifeless roll to come. He was remembering, too late, that on the other side of the ballroom door had been a mirror. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's reading from Kurt Vonnegut's Look at the Birdie book of short stories. I'd like to thank my partner Jeff and my daughters Anna and Emily and my son Adam for reading tonight as well. I hope that you all have a great evening.